It begins with a black speck in a white sky, a blip over the Beaufort Sea that turns from maybe weather to definitely not weather in a heartbeat. Engines spin up at an Arctic base. A controller's voice comes flat and calm. Tracks 2, vectors set. Out on the tarmac.
Ooh, tracks 2, vector set. Out on the tarmac. That's some cool military jargon there.
A controller's voice comes flat and calm. Tracks 2, vectors set. Out on the tarmac, crews move like a well-practiced ritual. Quiet hands, loud machines, and a horizon that is both a border and a dare. This is Canada's front line, where geography meets great power ambition at -30, and the wind tries to tear your eyelashes off just for fun. Most
What's that? And welcome back to another reaction video on this channel. And if you notice, I am the only person. The ladies are not around tonight, and I'm the only person. I saw this video, I said, yep, I'm going to check this out. I'm going to be a bit selfish and check this out alone. I can't wait for them to check this out. So guys, I decided to check this out, and the title of this video is How Insanely Powerful is the Canadian Military? You know, we have already watched stories of how Canada liberated the Netherlands, the Battle of Vimy Ridge, why the Germans feared the Canadians, and then there's another one about Hitler's nightmare, which is a lady. We're going to check that one later. But let's check out how powerful is the Canadian military. I am a very huge fan of the military stuff, and I am a very huge fan of military equipment and technology. So let's see what Canada built. Oh, I'm loving this one. The intro is absolutely taking me away.
And the wind tries to tear your eyelashes off just for fun. Most maps make Canada look empty. That's a cartographer's lie.
But that's something I've been like, that's something that's already gets stuck in my head, that Canada is empty. Like, people, like, Canada is like only 10% to like around 15% of Canada is occupied, effectively occupied, and the rest is empty. So what he's saying there is what I've already put in my head.
And the wind tries to tear your eyelashes off just for fun. Most maps make Canada look empty. That's a cartographer's lie. Those vast spaces are full of routes, choke points, seabed cables, air corridors, and a polar gateway that shortcuts the planet. The Canadian Armed Forces don't get to pick a single theatre. They get all of them. 3 oceans, a continent, and an air defense system fused with the United States through NORAD. If the world is a chessboard, Canada is playing on every file at once, sometimes as the Queen, sometimes
fused with the United States air defense system, as in how? Like, how do they fuse their air defense system to the Nord? Oh, let's go.
Canada is playing on every file at once, sometimes as the Queen, sometimes as the Bishop, always as the piece that makes your opponent hesitate. Start with the numbers, because they shape the story. Canada's defense spending historically sits below the NATO average as a share of GDP. But in raw dollars, it ranks comfortably among the top 20 worldwide. Compare it with peers. Australia often hovers around 2% of GDP, with a hard Indo-Pacific focus. Italy lands in the mid-1% range with Mediterranean commitments. Canada aims its spending at continental defense, Arctic surveillance, and high-end interoperability. The result is a capability power, less about sheer mass and more about putting the right tools in the right place at the right time. That approach is written across the sky in stealth letters. 88 F-35A Lightning II fighters replacing aging Hornets. Canada isn't...
About this 88 F-35 Hornet, I think this F-35 Hornet, let me just play.
88 F...
Yeah, this F-35, I learned that Canada wanted to order 88, and due to Trump's arrogance towards Canada and his continuous tariffs and provocation and stuff like that, Canada had already paid for 12, and they're finally thinking of getting like the Swedish Gripen. Yeah, the whether it's Saab Gripen from Sweden. And it's sad, right? It's actually sad that the United States is taking that kind of route where they cannot just respect their neighbors and keep behaving so arrogantly. Honestly, I don't know who made this video, and whether it's American or Canadian, I just hope that there's going to come a president in the US who will not so much treat Canada like a small brother. Yeah, of course, Canada is a very big country and it's a very, 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 very independent. And one thing I've learned about Canadians is that you guys love your country. Like, you love your country. You're so proud of your country. You wouldn't trade anything for your country. And I feel like Canadians are people that when they are threatened, they become even harder. They don't budge under pressure. They kind of become stronger under pressure. And it's something I really like about you guys. I really admire that, you know.
Less about sheer mass and more about putting the right tools in the right place at the right time. That approach is written across the sky in stealth letters. 88 F-35A Lightning II fighters replacing aging Hornets. Canada isn't just buying jets, it's buying a data machine that sees first, shares first, and shoots second. Because the first two often solve the problem. The transition includes hardened facilities, secure networks, and a training pipeline that puts pilots and maintainers on a generational upgrade curve. Think of it as switching from binoculars and walkie-talkies to a fused sensor web, where every aircraft contributes to a common picture. Beside the fighters come the long-range watchers, P-8A.
I want to talk about this aircraft. I learned that Canada produced back, I don't know if in the 1960s or 50s or 70s. It was called the Avro Arrow, and somebody taught me about this, and thank you. You know who you are. And the person said this aircraft was a very good high-speed interceptor to intercept Soviet bombers coming towards the north. And this thing was like way ahead of its time, and it was so advanced. And unfortunately, people in the United States convinced people in Canada to cancel the project, so Canada should keep buying jets from the United States. I don't know if that story is true. I've seen the images of that aircraft, and it's nothing like aircraft of that age, you know. And it's said to have been like a really, really fast aircraft. And for Canada to have just shelved it to go buy aircraft is it's not cool by me, you know. But you guys know what you want, and I was shocked to have ever heard about that. I've never heard about it. You know, U.S. aircraft are very popular, extremely popular, because they make a very good job of advertising their aircraft. And Canada built something that was, to me, I feel like what the person explained to me and what I've searched online shows that the aircraft was even better than what United States had at the time as interceptors. And then they just for no reason shelved it. Some people call it the greatest like military strategy in Canadian history, which was, according to me, sad that it happened. But we can't go back to Spielberg. I hope Canada is building something, because we have learned about the Super Scoopers. I don't know if Canada is building something now, or there's some other aircraft that are built in Canada, even private aircraft. You know, I would like to know about that. I am a very big fan of aircraft. I love it. I love to learn about them, so that I'll know about all these F-16s, F-18s, F-35s, F-22s, and things like that. And unfortunately, mostly people don't even talk about what Canadians produce. And we just learned about the Super Scoopers just to find out that they are the only aircraft that are built to fight wildfires effectively. Canada built a very effective interceptor back in the days when people did not even have it, and shelved it. Why? You know, when I learned about it, I wasn't happy.
Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft. These are the submariner's worst nightmare and the convoy commander's best friend. Their speciality is anti-submarine warfare. sonobuoys listening in stacked curtains, radar skimming waves for periscopes, torpedoes ready for the moment a trail turns into a fix. For a nation straddling the North Atlantic and North Pacific, where Russian and increasingly capable Asian submarines prowl, the P-8 turns cold water into a readable map. And then there are the eyes that never blink.
What? Turns cold water into a readable map? Oh, wait. Canada uses like military satellites? Wait. The eyes that never blink. Canada. I'm going to be very confused.
P-8 turns cold water into a readable map. And then there are the eyes that never blink. MQ-9B Sky Guardian, remotely piloted aircraft. Persistent ISR over ocean approaches, Arctic patrol lanes, or domestic emergencies is not glamorous, but it's how you turn surprise into a scheduled event for the other guy. With precision weapons available, those drones aren't just scouts, they're sentries with teeth. Pair them with Canada's CC-330 Husky tanker fleet, airborne gas stations derived from the A330, and you get what every strategist craves.
They look like those places in those high-tech military movies. And then, honestly, the more I learn about this Canada, sometimes I just feel like a kid, depending on the type of questions I asked. You remember when we just started reacting to this channel, I asked about all those thousands of islands in northern Canada, in the far north of Canada, and those places. I was asking, like, what if, like, how do they even protect them militarily? Like, what if they secretly invaded? And here comes the answer. You know, they have surveillance aircraft, like they're always watching their territory. They're always having radars and aircraft in space, in the sky, like surveying and making sure that their country is safe. And that is wild. I did not know that they do that. I just thought, well, we have military aircraft and they're there in the military base. If there's something, they'll take off, go check, and then, yeah.
Endurance. Fighters refuel and stay on CAP. Patrol aircraft stretch missions. The map suddenly feels smaller. Power doesn't live in the air alone. At sea, the Royal Canadian Navy lives in 2 calendars at once. On today's calendar, 12 Halifax-class frigates carry most of the load, escorting, hunting submarines, interdicting smugglers, and sailing with allied carrier groups.
Halifax, the capital of Nova Scotia. Halifax-class naval frigates. I'm always confused between frigates and destroyers. Like, I'm always confused between those two vessels. And sometimes corvettes, yeah, and cruisers. So you have corvettes, frigates, frigates, destroyers, and cruisers. Yeah, I'm always confused between those.
Submarines, interdicting smugglers, and sailing with allied carrier groups. 6 Harry DeWolf-class Arctic and offshore patrol vessels underpin sovereignty in the high north, with ice strengthening and endurance that turns presence into policy. Logistics is the other half of naval power, and the Protector-class joint support ships are the quiet guarantors of it, replenishing fuel, ammo, and morale, so a task group can keep its rhythm beyond the horizon. On tomorrow's calendar, the Canadian surface combatant River-class destroyers, based on the Type 26 design, promises a leap in quieting, sensors, and area air defense. It's expensive. It's slow to build. It's also the ticket to relevance in the 2030s and beyond, when undersea threats get stealthier and skies busier. A modern anti-submarine destroyer is not a luxury for a 3-ocean navy. It's the price of admission. Under the waves, the story gets even more interesting. Canada's 4 Victoria-class submarines are aging, but still deliver the kind of value that only a submarine can. Training.
Canada using submarines? Well, my mind is bending, y'all. Look at Victoria-class submarines. Are they like nuclear-powered submarines or like electric boats, electric-powered submarines? Like using batteries, fuel cells, or maybe they're using like motors, engines, or whatever. I don't know. Please tell me. I'm just excited. Like, oh my God, this Canada is so interesting.
Allies, shadowing quietly and turning up in places where attention spans go to die. The Canadian Patrol Submarine Project maps the future. Modern, conventionally powered boats with the range and under-ice credibility a Northern Navy needs. The debate leans toward designs proven in harsh waters. Think advanced German or South Korean families, because the Arctic doesn't give retests. The timeline matters. Keep the Victorias relevant into the mid-2030-50s, field the new class before the gap yawns, and you preserve the most asymmetric deterrent Canada owns. Switch.
Please, I have a question. Does Canada build its submarines, and does it build like its navy boats, like the destroyers, the frigates and things like that? And another question: does Canada have an aircraft carrier? Does it have it? I don't know. Like,
Switch to land, where myths multiply. No, Canada doesn't field colossal armoured cores. What it does field is a credible, deployable mix built around LAV 6.0 infantry fighting vehicles, Leopard 2 tanks, and a growing cluster of support, command, and recovery platforms that keep columns alive. The sharper change, and the most relevant to how wars look today, is air defence. After a decade-long gap, short-range air defence is back. The RBS-70 NG system gives units a laser-guided sting against low-flying jets and helicopters, and, crucially, provides a hard-kill option for many drones. Add dedicated counter-UAS kits with sensors, jammers, and shooters scaled to those buzzing Class 1 nightmares, and Canada is relearning the art of fighting under a hostile sky. That sky is not just a battlefield. It's a classroom. The Ukraine war taught every NATO army that cheap drones can do expensive damage, and that cruise missiles exploit gaps like water finds a crack. Canada's answer is layered. SHORAD at the pointy end helps units breathe. Ground-based air defense projects aim to restore.
yeah, I learned that Canada also supports, like, send military and financial support to Ukraine, which is in Europe. Then I'm just going to ask you something very unrelated to the whole of this topic. Is it true that Canada is planning to join the European Union? Yeah, I'd just like to know. I've heard of that, but I don't know if it's just fake news or what. Because Canada, as I learned, is bigger than the size of the European Union. Canada is a continent pretending to be a country. Yeah, I should just call it a Canadian continent. Yeah, just call it that. There's no need to call it a country. All your provinces should be like countries.
On the aerospace side, NORAD modernization stretches to ground-based air defense projects aim to restore broader coverage. On the aerospace side, NORAD modernization stretches detection further north, with over-the-horizon radar. Fighter squadrons carry advanced missiles, and tankers keep orbits alive. The message is simple. The lock is going back on the door, with an alarm and a camera this time. Speaking of NORAD, nothing captures Canada's frontline reality like the binational watch floor, where Canadian and American officers live in each other's headsets. The partnership is not...
Wait. They're in the same, like, American and Canadian officers are in the same, like, workstation, monitoring, like, the airspace in the same workstation. Hold on. This is crazy. And the Canadian uniform, like, camo is absolutely, it's just different. Like, I think I like it because it's like deeper green. I did not know about this one.
Canadian and American officers live in each other's headsets. The partnership is not just a treaty, it's muscle memory. When a Russian long-range bomber probes an air defense identification zone, the scramble is choreographed. When a mysterious balloon drifts across the map, that choreography becomes a case study in rapid cross-border decision-making. And when planners talk about hypersonics or stealthy cruise missiles sneaking along the curvature of the Earth, Canada's northern radar curtain and space-to-surface sensor fusion turn from PowerPoint slides into paychecks. Of course, numbers still matter, so let's square them with some peers. Canada's active duty force is smaller than Italy's, but comparable in quality, with reserves that backstop domestic operations. Australia fields fewer personnel overall, but concentrates intensely on maritime and air denial in the Indo-Pacific. Canada spreads capability across 3 coasts and continental defence. In raw defence budgets, Canada lands in the middle of the G7, below the US and UK, above many others, and it over-indexes on multinational interoperability. If you want a coalition to plug together quickly, you want Canadian kit and Canadian staff officers in the room early.
Yeah, I did. Since I've watched videos about what Canadians did in the First World War and the Second World War, I honestly give you guys all the respect. You can't tell me anything. These guys are ferocious. They're like these carriers. I always say this, that I mentioned once that I thought Canada was just like a younger country, and the United States was basically doing like the defense for North America. And there were so many people who came out to say, never say that again. Canadians are the scariest and most ferocious fighters when it goes back to World War II, even in Afghanistan, Iraq, every other country where Canadians go, they always fear Canadians the most. And this is what I did. I put my hands like this because I have seen it by myself from the stories I've seen, the stories I've read, the things I have watched on video. Canada, I mean, you deserve it. Honestly, you do.
Now, a quick reality check on recruiting and retention. Like most Western forces, the CAF faces a tough labour market, ageing platforms, and some cultural scar tissue it has
absolutely love what they wear, honestly. Absolutely love it. Look at how cool they look.
CAF faces a tough labour market, ageing platforms, and some cultural scar tissue it has promised to heal. The leadership knows that modernization is not just hardware, it's people. That's why you'll see accelerated training pathways, streamlined medicals, and a broader effort to pull in talent that might not have seen itself in uniform 10 years ago. The goal isn't to lower standards, it's to seek excellence in more places. Which brings us to an anecdote that says more than a spreadsheet. During a Northern Sovereignty exercise, a Southern infantry platoon found itself caught between a whiteout that erased the world and satellite comms that decided the Aurora was more interesting than bandwidth. The tech stack looked great on the slide. Blue Force trackers, ISR snippets, even an occasional weather model piped from a faraway desk. None of it solved the immediate problem of left or right of the ridge that doesn't exist anymore. A Canadian Ranger Corporal, a woman whose grandfather taught her how to read wind lines when she was 12, found the past by taste and memory and the hunch you only get after 1,000 miles on a snowmobile. She put a platoon through a gap the satellite didn't see. That's modernization, Canadian style. Sensors plus people whose senses are already tuned to the land. Special operations are the force's quiet exclamation mark. CANSOFCOM binds Joint Task Force 2, the Canadian Special Operations Regiment, 427 Special Operations Aviation Squadron, and CJRU, the National CBRN Response Element. The command trains for the missions you hear.
Look at what those guys are wearing on it. Look at these guys. Hold on. Look at that. What's that? What type of forces are those? What type of uniform is that, guys?
CBRN Response Element. The command trains for the missions you hear about only when they go wrong. Hostage rescue, time-sensitive raids, surgical reconnaissance that turns an entire campaign, and the nightmare scenario of chemical or radiological incidents. What makes Canadian SOF so valuable isn't just skill, it's fluency. Plug and play with Five Eyes partners, NATO brigades, and interagency teams, from the Baltics to the Caribbean. In a world where speed beats size, these are the units that move faster than the news cycle. Domestic operations are the other half of legitimacy. Floods, fires, ice storms. The CAF spends a lot of days saving Canadians from the land they love. Search and rescue crews launch into weather the rest of us pronounce with a shiver. dragging survivors out of mountains, oceans, and frozen nowhere. Strategic lift aircraft carry relief halfway around the world on Tuesday and a cavalry squadron on Wednesday. If you judge a military by how it treats its own backyard, Canada's earns respect the hard way. None of this works without industry. Halifax-class sustainment keeps frigates relevant with block upgrades. Davie and Irving keep the shipyards humming. Munitions lines matter again, from artillery shells to air-to-air missiles. Tactical radios, satellite time, and secure networks might be the least photogenic line items in a budget, but they're what turns a multinational brigade from a logo parade into a combined arms organism. Expect more investment in joint fires, common data fabrics, and what planners politely call kill webs, the nervous system of a modern force. Now, let's talk geopolitics with fewer euphemisms. Russia's Northern Fleet shelters ballistic missile submarines behind layered air defenses and maritime patrols in the Barents and Arctic seas. Those patrols spill into the GI-UK gap and the North Atlantic, where they threaten the artery between North America and Europe. China, meanwhile, doesn't need Arctic bases to complicate Canada's life. It can build dual-use presence in science and shipping, eye the polar Silk Road, and put holes in northern waters during melt windows. The Arctic is not a postcard. It's an emerging economic and military highway. Canada's answer, Arctic patrol ships, modern destroyers, P-8s, F-35s, over-the-horizon radar, persistent drones, is not a wish list. It's a map of how to stay a step ahead. Allies notice. In Latvia, Canada doesn't just send a flag. It leads the multinational brigade, anchoring NATO's deterrence. That leadership teaches staff work under pressure, integrating artillery, engineers, aviation, and ground units from a dozen nations into a tempo that survives friction. It is not
How come I never checked this video before? Like, how the hell did I not check this out? How did I not check this before?
It is not glamorous to run a brigade main command post in a forest with a million radios competing with a million trees. But it is exactly the muscle memory a coalition needs on day one of a crisis. The same logic applies at sea, where Canadian frigates plug seamlessly into US and UK carrier strike groups, and in the air, where Canadian fighters sit the same tapes and run the same tactics as their closest partners. Common myths deserve a short, sharp rebuttal. Canada is just peacekeepers. History says otherwise.
True.
The force specializes.
History says otherwise. History says otherwise. Canada is not just a peacekeeper. They are peacemakers. And they are peacekeepers. And they are just not peacekeepers only. If you want to tango, put on a bogey. If you want to tango Canada, come on, you're gonna get tangled.
History says otherwise. The force specializes in deterrence and coalition warfare from the Baltics to blue water, with
True.
peace support as one tool, not the whole toolbox. Underfunded equals ineffective. It's true that the burden share trails the NATO average. It is also true that targeted investments in sensors, ASW, and 5th-gen aviation produce outsized returns. Small equals small impact. Ask any admiral how much a single P-8 sortie can change a hunt, or any NORAD director how important a credible Arctic radar picture is when minutes matter. Let's sharpen the human element with one more vignette. A Cyclone maritime helicopter lifts off a frigate rolling in winter seas. The crew is chasing a faint trace, maybe a diesel boat, maybe a trick of thermoclines. The sensor operator rides the display like a surfer reading a wave, dipping the sonar, chasing an echo, cross-referencing with a P-8's buoy field miles away. The pilot keeps station in wind that wants to fold the rotor. Over the link, an American destroyer calls for an update. A British frigate adjusts its sprint and drift. For a few minutes, everyone's map becomes one map. The contact is classified. The lesson is not. Interoperability is not a slogan, it's a lifesaver. Canadian intercept calls may include please and thank you, but the AMRAAM still pronounces no in all languages. The Rangers do not, officially, fuel snowmobiles with maple syrup. Unofficially, don't test their patience before breakfast. Arctic summer.
Don't test their patience before breakfast. That's annoying.
Is that magical day you wear a lighter parka and chip slightly less ice off a 25mm mount. Humor keeps you warm. Well, warmer. Zoom back to the ledger. Strengths: world-class air interoperability, serious anti-submarine ambition, a maturing Arctic surface presence, special operations that play well with others, and logistics that punch above population size. Challenges: recruiting, aging fleets, shipyard throughput, the sheer cost of modern sensors and missiles, and the need to harden bases and networks against precision strikes and cyber mischief. Direction of travel: up. The money line is bending toward big, long-life capabilities, rather than short-term optics. The doctrine is shifting from do everything a bit to excel exactly where allies need us most. Training ties the bow. Pilots run 5th-gen tactics with US and European squadrons. Submarine crews gather lessons from allies who live underwater. Army brigades learn to hide from drones, jam them, and kill them, while artillery relearns massed fires with precision sprinkles. Cyber defenders practice the unglamorous art of keeping lights on and data clean during storms, natural and man-made. Space operators manage satellites and services that keep Blue Dots honest in the worst weather on Earth. The future fight will punish the slow and the siloed. Canada is trying to be neither. So, how insanely powerful is the Canadian military? If power is the ability to force outcomes, Canada does it by allying faster, by making a coastline visible, by making a submarine think twice, and by making an adversary wonder what else they didn't see on that radar sweep. It is the kind of power that rarely shouts, but answers the phone at awful hours with exactly the capability the moment demands. If being polite, bilingual, and punctual could win wars, Canada would already be a hyperpower. Since they can't, Canada is building something better. A force that sees first, arrives fast, and stays long, even when the runway is ice and the sun forgot to rise. That's sane strength in an insane world. Your turn. What surprised you most about Canada's military? The Arctic radar curtain, the submarine ambitions, the Latvian leadership, or the way drones and tankers quietly change everything? Drop your take in the comments. Argue like Canadians, fiercely, clearly, and with just enough sorry to keep it friendly.
Just with enough sorry to keep it friendly. Got to love this narrator, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Canada, you absolutely surprised me. I feel like this is the best video I've watched. I feel like I just ate. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the person who sent this video to me. Like, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. I so much appreciate it. Love you guys. Respect you. And to all your armed forces, men and women, thank you for your service. We love you over here. To your contribution to world security, keep the whole planet safe. You know, we love you.